It's official. Short-term interest rates have now exceeded 5%. These are the highest levels in over 15 years. You can see this up here in the table. This is the Wall Street Journal's page on interest rates, specifically U.S. treasuries or U.S. government bonds. The 6-month and 1-year issue, as you can see here, are now beyond that coveted 5% mark that everybody's been waiting for. Today, what I'm going to show you is how to buy treasuries through Fidelity's fixed income platform, assuming you have a Fidelity retail account. That's what we're talking about. Let's get going. Now, before we jump into the Fidelity platform, let me just mention there's two basic ways to buy treasuries. You can buy them brand new via an auction from the Treasury, or you can purchase them via the secondary market. We're going to be talking about the latter, purchasing treasuries on the secondary market. And this is what I prefer personally because it's easier to line up the maturities that you're looking for, and you know what the yield is going to be right out of the gate. But at the end of the day, they're very comparable. There's no huge advantage to going one way or the other. But I just want to be clear that we are focusing on purchasing treasuries in the secondary market today. Now, if you're interested in getting in on this 5% and you have a Fidelity retail account, here's how you purchase these securities. So obviously you need to log in, and once you're logged in, bring your cursor up here over this news and research dropdown, and you're going to want to come down here and click fixed income. Next, you'll find yourself in Fidelity's fixed income platform. And what you're going to want to do is scroll down. This kind of gives you a snapshot of where rates are across various types of bond offerings. It also includes brokered CDs. I've talked a lot about that in recent months. In fact, I did an entire how to purchase brokered CDs video. I'll try to link that up in the top right-hand corner of your screen if you want to reference back to that one. But today, of course, we're talking about treasuries. One thing I like about treasuries personally is they're state income tax free. I'm in the state of Minnesota, and we do have a relatively high state income tax. So I personally have moved a big chunk of my personal cash savings into treasuries relatively recently to take advantage of both of these yields and the fact that the interest is earned state income tax free. Now, to keep this simple, we're going to assume that we're just buying one individual treasury security. So, for instance, let's say we want to buy a 1-year U.S. Treasury bill, as they're technically known. This happens to also be the highest point in what we call the yield curve, which just, in other words, this is the highest level of interest being offered across treasuries of all maturities. So we click this link, and the next thing it's going to bring us to is this table showing all the treasuries that mature in approximately 1 year. Now, one thing I like about purchasing treasuries this way via the secondary market is we can basically pick from an entire list of maturities. So here's all the various bond offerings, or treasury bills more technically, and we can sort by date, for instance. If we want to see, these ones obviously mature first and so on and so forth. So if you really wanted to build out a treasury ladder of different maturities, if you really wanted to get fancy with that, well, you got a lot of things to pick from. The other way we can sort this, of course, is by yield. And frankly, for the vast majority of individual investors, focusing on these columns out here, the ask yield, is probably going to be the most important piece of information to you if you're buying short-term issues which you intend to hold until maturity. Now, I know looking at all these columns, I think this can be intimidating for the average person who has no expertise in finance or experience purchasing individual bonds. So again, I really want to emphasize probably the most important columns for you to focus on are the ask yield to maturity and the maturity date. Again, this is when the bond is going to pay out at par. Sorry to throw the financial jargon at you, trying to keep this simple. Now, it's also important to mention how this, call it 5.09% yield, is going to be delivered to you as an individual investor. Again, this is one area that I think gets confusing to the average person who might be more familiar with purchasing CDs. When you purchase a CD at a traditional brick and mortar bank, say you put $10,000 in, The CD says it's going to pay you, say, 4%. Well, it's very simple. You put $10,000 in, you get your 4% in an interest payment and your principal back at the end. Well, treasuries are a little bit different. There's two components of the return. There's obviously the interest piece, or the coupon is what we call it, and there's also the potential for capital gain. So for example, in this top issue, which is the ask yield, is roughly what you would get if you purchase this individual security. Okay, you're only going to get 0.875% in an actual coupon payment between now and maturity. Okay, if you're going to get, so you might be scratching your head, if I'm going to get less than 1% coupon payment, how am I supposed to get 5%? Well, the answer is you're going to be buying this security at a discount. So you're paying, call it 96 cents on the dollar for a treasury that's going to pay you 100 cents on the dollar at maturity. So the combination of the coupon payment plus that discount closing at maturity is what ultimately makes up this, call it 5% return or 5% annualized yield. Now, if that was a little bit hard to follow in terms of how the return is delivered, stick with me. Let me walk you through the buying process. I think it'll be a little bit more clear as we go through the final steps here. So when you're finally ready to purchase, and we're going to purchase this top one, which right now is the highest yield, and it's a little shy of 1 year. When we're recording, it's February 23rd, 2023. So this is going to mature in just under a year. Let's go ahead and purchase one of these treasury securities. Now, once you press that buy button, you're going to come to this screen. This is the purchase screen. So the first thing you need to do is select the account that you're going to purchase the securities in. And then you need to come down here and choose the quantity of bonds you want to purchase. And this is an important note. Bonds are denominated in units. Okay, $1,000 units. In other words, 1 unit is equivalent to $1,000 in face value bonds. 5 units would be, of course, $5,000. 10 would be $10,000, and so forth. So we're just going to purchase one for example purposes here. Once you're ready to make your purchase, obviously you come down here and hit preview order. All right, so I pushed that preview order button. That's going to bring us to basically the last screen. And here is the summary of our purchase of one treasury security. So we're going to be purchasing this for roughly $963. Just round it up to keep things simple. And again, I want to emphasize, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. What is the composition of our return? How are we going to get this roughly 5.05%? Well, it's going to consist of two pieces. The yield on this CD, or the coupon, was 0.875%. Okay, but in addition to that 0.875%, I'm also going to get paid out $1,000 at maturity, even though I only had to buy this security for $963, call it. So it's the combination of those two things which is going to create this, again, a little bit over 5% yield. So once you're ready to go, obviously all you got to do is hit this place order button. After you push purchase, you're going to come to one final screen with a confirm number. Of course, you can write that down for your records. And that's really it. That's how you buy treasuries on the secondary market through Fidelity. So what do you think? Are you going to try it? Let me know in the comments section, or are you going to stick with something easier like CDs? Speaking of CDs, I will link, if you're watching on YouTube, on the end screen here, to a how-to video, how you purchase brokered CDs through Fidelity's fixed income platform. That video has been well received. And again, one of the reasons I put that one together is because I think the average person, CDs are just a lot easier to grasp. So check that one out if you're looking for something a little bit more straightforward. But remember, CDs don't have that special feature of being state income tax free. Anyway, I hope this one was helpful. Hey, if you're watching on Facebook, I hope you'll like the Facebook page. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, I'd be honored if you'd subscribe and continue to follow along as we keep pumping these things out. As always, thanks for watching. I hope we'll see you on the next one.